Glenn, to me, that is the genius of America. It is not just our Constitution or Declaration. It's the sense that we are not a mere historical happenstance, but we are a providential nation, that the favor of God has been on us.
If we're humble. If we're humble.
Right. That's right. And of course, there are people who want to end that. They want to do, we saw it in the Democrat Party's convention, get God out of the platform. Who needs God? And you're right. I do sense an awakening happening in America. It's slow, but I speak in black churches and white churches, and in black churches particularly where people might not expect it, I get an overwhelmingly positive response. I've had people come up to me and say, you woke me up. And here again, I think it's God moving. I don't think it's attributable to me as a person, but rather to God moving on people's hearts and saying, okay, there are enough of you standing up. I'm going to move in your behalf. And I agree with you, Glenn. I think God is going to do some marvelous things to help bring this nation back to him.
So how do we heal the division? Because I think we're at the beginning of real problems. I mean, the president just said it on Univision a couple of weeks ago. He said, I realized you can't change Washington from the inside. You have to change it from the outside. And they're only good. They're really, these guys are only really good at stirring up trouble and being the dissent. They're not good at governing. They're good at tearing things apart and causing division. How do we as people bring people together? And when you've got the media and everybody else saying what they say about us and Mitt Romney and you and everybody else, how do we break that and bring people together?
Well, obviously, a lot of prayer, and I know you're a man who believes in prayer. And secondly, I say to people when I speak to groups, and they say, well, how do I bridge that gap? I know black people. I'm white. I know black people, but I'm afraid to approach them. I say, it needs to be on a very personal level, and to say to them, look, you know me. We've known each. Do you think I'm against you? Do you think I want to hurt you? Do you think I'm out to get you? Can you at least concede that I have ideals and principles that matter to me that have nothing to do with race? I love you. I care about you. I'm interested in you. And I think my view is that the people whose hearts are open to truth will respond. Now, there are some people, as I'm sure you know, I don't care what you do, you're never going to reach them because they're hardened in their views. But I find a lot of Americans' hearts are very open.
What is going to happen in Virginia?
Well, that's a good question. I believe that Mitt Romney is going to win, and I'm working very hard to see to it that happens. And I believe that George Allen, who is running against Tim Kaine, of course, Tim Kaine is an Obama clone, he was actually recruited by Obama to run. I believe that George Allen will prevail over him, although Mitt Romney is doing better right now than George Allen is. But I trust that we will end up having Mitt Romney win in Virginia and having George Allen win in Virginia. So that's my faith.
Do you think that people need a leader to be able to, for instance, the Tea Party doesn't have a leader, and it just became this spontaneous movement. Do you think people need a leader in the black community to see? I mean, because they must know that things have gotten much worse for the African American in the last 4 years, and I just read a study that shows that African Americans feel as though it is harder for them to speak out now and be who they want to be than what it was before the president got into office. And I think when it comes to race, I think we all feel that way. He was supposed to heal us. He did the opposite. I am much less likely to feel comfortable speaking to an African American or an African American group because of all the things that have been said that people like me believe, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there are a lot of African Americans that will say, especially if they're conservative, I don't feel comfortable speaking out and saying anything because my own community will attack me or the system will attack me. At what point does that just break down? Because in the white community, I think people are just like, oh, I'm a racist? Really? Move on. Heard it before. It's not who I am. At what point does that break?
I had the same hope, Glenn, but how can a bad tree bear good fruit? And I realized that was probably a quixotic hope. But with regard to leadership, no, I don't think that the black community needs a leader, but I do think there is always a need for leadership. I mean, you provide leadership, because for me, leadership is influence. It is simply trying to open people up to the truth and trying to help them see. It's not trying to control them or make decisions for them, but trying to expose them to the truth and trying to be a positive influencer. And I think that kind of leadership is always needed. It's there, but I think people have been cowed into not speaking up. And I'm hoping that one of the influences that my video and other things that we're doing has is to cause people to say, you know what, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to speak up. I agree with Bishop Jackson. I'm not going to be silent about this, and I'll let God take care of me.
Well, Bishop, I hope we get a chance to meet soon. I'm from what I know of you, I'm very impressed. I know you have a new book coming out soon. Right? You have a new one coming out?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Called America the Beautiful, Reflections of a Patriot Descended from Slaves. Yes.
Are you from slave family?
As a matter of fact, yes, my great-grandparents, Gabriel and Eliza Jackson, were slaves and then sharecroppers in Orange County, Virginia. I date my lineage back at least as far as the year before George Washington was born. We believe it goes back before that.
Wow.
And by the way, George Washington is my favorite president. Just wanted you to know. I read the book you recommended. That was the second biography I read about him. I love George Washington. But at any rate, yes. I am a direct descendant. My grandfather was not born in slavery, but his parents were. And they moved out of Virginia. My grandfather did, and ultimately migrated to Pennsylvania, where I was born. But yes, and look, and I tell people, I'm proud of that, because only in America do we have a country built on the truth that God gave all humanity the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So the seed of the destruction of slavery, unlike any place else on the earth, was built into our founding framework.
You, sir, are a bright spot. I can guarantee you, on the other side of the veil, your slave ancestors are saying, "Free at last, free at last." You are a remarkable story and one of the freest men I know. God bless you. Thank you very much.
God bless you, Glenn.
We'll talk to you. His website is standamerica.us. Standamerica.us. Bishop Jackson.